Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're viewing. Joe Davis, Southern New Hampshire University, CJ 300 Research Methods in Criminal Justice. Today we're going to look at 1-2 activity, which is the worksheet for your first Module 1 assignment. It is a pass-fail assignment. You must complete this assignment, but there are no points for it. You can't go forward without it. Okay, so in this worksheet you will select the issue you will pursue for the final project from a provided list, of course, and explain why you have made that selection. So you need to fill out and submit your worksheet to the instructor for approval. Your next opportunity to work on the final project will be in the next module. The assignment is graded on a pass-fail basis, and you can refer to that link there for Module 1 worksheet and rubric document for more information. Before we go to that, a reminder, there are 4 other video mini lectures for this first module, one for the library, one welcoming, how to take a review of the final project, and your discussion boards. Okay, let's see if we can get to the Module 1 worksheet. Okay, my apologies for a little hitch in the giddy up there getting to the actual copy. I had to open it as a Word document, and that's fine. As you can see, it tells you what it is, where it says the project issue, selection, and approval. Yes, you make sure you get your name on there. You want to also make sure that you have our course and section number. And so we are, yes, CJ 300, Q like Queen 4429, and that will take care of that so that if it ever shows up somewhere, someone would know where to find it. Okay, the overview, your final project in this course is based on a contemporary issue in the criminal justice field. This worksheet provides you the opportunity to select the issue for your project and gain instructor approval for your selection. So here's what the prompt says. It says, complete the following worksheet to select the contemporary issue for your project. Describe or explain the issue in your own words and explain why you selected it. Okay, so when we scroll down just a little bit, hopefully you can read this. Select an issue from the list below. Can't emphasize that enough. It has to be the list below. If you want to vary from that, you're going to have to get approval via email from me. And frankly, I'm going to keep guiding you back to these 6. You may suggest an issue, and that's what it says, before you start your project. If you select your own issue, it must be related to the criminal justice field, have potential impact on policy decisions. Okay, let's take a look at these issues. Number 1 is domestic violence, and I used this one in the library mini lecture. This entails violent abuse within the home, often involving spouses or partners within an intimate partnership. This type of crime can extend to child abuse within the home as well. So within that framework of domestic violence, you can't just say that you want your selection is domestic violence. What is it about domestic violence that is a contemporary issue, that's something that policy decisions are being looked at? So is it the reporting? Is it the treatment of survivors of domestic violence by police or by the system or by the courts? Is it post-traumatic stress disorder in the survivors? If we were to look at offenders, why do they offend? Well, you can't just say why do they offend. You want to say, is there a profile to it? What is that profile? So that's why I say these 6 are very well thought out by our course developer. Residential burglary, entering the premises of a residence against the owner's wishes to commit a crime. So to just write about res burgs and say, oh, you know, in 2014 there were 10,000 of them, and in 2015 there were 9,500. 2016 there were 11,300. No, that's not research. That's not related to the potential impact of policy decisions. So what you would have to do is look for trends and events in residential burglaries, perhaps the investigation of them, perhaps in the prevention of them. Is there a value to neighborhood watch? Do crime prevention programs work? Does target hardening work? That's why it's a very, very wide field. Does response time to a burglar alarm make any difference? Those kinds of things. Okay? Repeat offenders. Individuals who commit crimes more than once. Usually the offender will repeat the same type of crime, increasing the amount of specific crime type occurs, creating a crime trend. So it doesn't say crimes against person, crimes against property, sex crimes, drug offenses. It doesn't say that. It's wide open. So then you would have to narrow it down and say perhaps juvenile repeat offenders for being under the influence of a Schedule I drug, work or don't work. What's the recidivism rate for adults ages 18 to 24 who are heroin addicts? Something like that, so that it's truly research. It's not just a listing of statistics. Okay? Narcotics violations, possession, using, distribution, any of those kinds of things would be one where there are the impact of policy decisions. Speeding. Speeding is most common traffic infraction, is a leading contributing factor to accidents and fatalities. And so how do we control? What would be a policy decision? What would be a trend in this? What about video cameras, about cameras in the red light cameras in the intersections? Does selective enforcement, does no enforcement have any difference? Does the size of the street, the population, the race, ethnicity, gender of the community or the offender have anything to do with it? The weather conditions have anything to do with it? Does the age of the offender have anything to do with it? Those would all be things in speeding, so you can't just put down speeding. Use of force complaints. Use of force complaints bring into question the officer's method in controlling a subject. Were the measures that the officer took cruel and unusual? That's a constitutional violation. Were they excessive, or did they cause unnecessary injury to the suspect? So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to write about use of force. Not good enough. You're going to have to define use of force in what circumstance or what type of force. I'm trying to think of some good examples for you. It would be use of force with a taser device, an electronic type device that doesn't work. Then what's the next step of escalation? Or perhaps, is there a profile of officers that offend? Is there a profile of people, the victims, the suspects, that offend? That sort of thing. Are actions being taken that do, if an officer is a repeat offender, are the remediation efforts of the police department, corrections department, doesn't make any difference, effective? Okay, so that gives you an idea. So now when you get down to the next one, number 2, how would you describe or explain the issue in your own words? Be sure to define key terms in your own words. So you're not necessarily going to get it all to just fit in there nicely. Okay, this is going to be probably a nice paragraph, maybe 4 or 5 sentences, probably 50, 75, maybe 100 words, something like that. Okay, then why did you select this issue? Why is it interest to you professionally or personally? Maybe it is personal. Should be professional. Okay, so now you have to save this worksheet with your name as part of the file, and it says please save it as mod1 underscore ws underscore your name, not John Doe. Okay, so it'll be Joe underscore Davis, and submit it in Blackboard. And then now here is the grading rubric, pass fail, but it is a grading rubric. Issue selection. Issue is selected from the list provided or the student has received instructor approval for a new one. Issue explanation. Student provides a brief explanation of the issue in his or her own words, including definitions of all terms. Student describes why the issue is of interest personally and professionally. You have to meet all 3 of those to receive a passing grade. Hope this helps you. If you need help, let me know. Keep those cards and letters coming.